Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy, and welcome back to my channel dedicated to helping you advocate for your own health, one topic at a time. So today I want to talk about masks because it seems like we've come full circle on masks, right? It wasn't long ago that we were being told you don't need a mask, don't wear a mask unless you feel sick, and if you feel sick, put on a mask. And then at the same time, we were seeing images of people in South Korea and Hong Kong and other places where a lot of people at large were out wearing masks. So what was the deal with that? Were there supply issues that weighed into the decision of what to recommend to us? Yeah, probably, and rightfully so, in my opinion. But there were also other issues like, do people wear the mask correctly? What are the problems with wearing a mask? And I'm going to get into those things in a moment. How to wear a mask if you're going to wear one, what you might fashion as a mask, and what might be some issues that come up if you are going to wear the mask. But first of all, so why wear a mask? Because again, we've come full circle and we've had different recommendations given to us, and it's a little bit confusing and concerning, right? So first of all, who does the mask protect? So you hear there's all different kinds of masks, right? And we're hearing a lot about that N95 mask, which is a respirator, and it's a very specific, expensive kind of a mask that I think we all agree has to be reserved for people who are on the front lines, people in healthcare, in the ICUs, in the emergency rooms. You know, the nurses and doctors need those because that is the kind of a mask that protects the person who's wearing it as much as it protects other people on the outside. Okay, so that mask will filter out small droplets, the kinds of aerosolized particles that are in the air, and really only an issue if you are really up close and personal, like people who do anesthesia, for example, or respiratory therapists where they're putting that breathing tube in, people in the ICU for COVID patients who have to go on ventilators. Those people are right up in the airway with the secretions, and the small amount of this virus that is aerosolized is in close enough contact with those people that they need that N95 mask. So enough said, we don't have enough N95 masks, it seems, even for our healthcare workers on the front lines. So let's just all agree that those need to go to those people. And that's all we need to talk about here with the N95. So what about other masks that are not the N95? What about the surgical masks we wear in the operating room, or scarves or bandanas like we're being told to wear? So even in the operating room, we wear regular old masks. We generally don't wear something like an N95, which, by the way, has to be fitted properly too, and that's another discussion. Surgical masks, though, are really not as protective for the wearer from other things on the outside. What they do is they protect the patient in the operating room from anything that I might be introducing or a surgeon might be introducing or anybody else in the room. So if you've ever been in the operating room, if you've ever been taken to the operating room for surgery, you notice that you walk in the room and everybody's wearing a mask, but you're not wearing a mask. Well, that's why, because they're wearing that mask to protect you, the patient. Okay, the patient doesn't have to be protected from him or herself. So does it provide some protection? Yes, just like maybe a scarf or a bandana probably filters out large particles, like maybe most of the large droplets and things like that. But if you're really looking to just protect yourself, there's no really substitute for the social distancing. Okay, there's just no substitute for being a little more isolated, having at least 6 feet in between you and somebody else. And you know, really, that's all there is to that. It protects you a little bit in the event that maybe you have to get out and go somewhere. You end up, you know, crossing paths with somebody where you're a little too close. In that case, you know, it's probably better than nothing. Look, we're in the middle of a pandemic that is vicious, and it seems like any little thing we can do, we really have to take advantage of. So to that extent, I would say, sure, I think you're better off with it than without it. But primarily, I think the most important thing and the best thing about people wearing masks if they have to go out and be among or in a place where they might, you know, be a little too close to other people is that it's protecting those other people, right? That we know now that there's a large percentage of people with COVID-19 who are what we call silent carriers. They're just asymptomatic. They don't even know they're sick. So a few weeks ago, we were told, well, if you're sick, go ahead and put on a mask. Then you need a mask. Well, you know, first of all, a lot of people don't know they're sick with this particular virus. And second of all, even if you get sick and then put on a mask, well, there's been about 5 days where you've been probably shedding virus before you were symptomatic, right? So that really never did make a whole lot of sense to me. So I guess now we're operating on the assumption that anybody might be sick, and if we can get rid of that mode of transmission, at least tamp it down some, anything we can do is all for the better. So the mask is really more protective of the rest of the community than it is to the wearer. Okay, so here's where we get into then, if we're all doing it, you know, it's a good exercise in figuring out just how motivated you are by what's helpful to you versus what's helping other people out in the community. But if this is something that, you know, we can all do, only in the event that we cannot be sure of social distancing, then I think it's all for the better. Now, I talked a little bit about masks in a previous video, but I just touched on it. Masks have to fit properly. Okay, so there are a few issues with mask fit. So in the operating room, we have masks that have sort of a little wire piece it's on the inside of the mask. You don't feel it against your skin, but you mold that to the nose. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mask fit. And I'm going to talk about under what circumstances to put a mask on and how to take one off. So the most important thing is that you only put on a mask with very clean hands, and you only take off a mask with very clean hands. Right now, there's all these like pictures going around on social media and like nursing groups and doctors, you know, and it's all these funny shots of lay people and how they're wearing masks, and they look kind of funny to us. But of course, if you put me in a situation where I was having to do something that I don't normally do and I'm not trained to do, you could probably get a few humorous pictures also. So, you know, you see a lot of people, this is actually, I'm going to use it as though it's a mask. This is one of those disposable ice packs. So on the inside is a plastic bag, and you fill it with ice, and then you put it in here, and you might have seen these in the hospitals. I am going to talk about this a little more in a minute, but it sort of looks like an oversized surgical mask. And here's what we do in the operating room and what you should be doing if you're going to put a mask on, okay? Whether it ties or whether you're using a scarf or a bandana. Very clean hands. You put the top on first, adjust it as best you can, okay? And I got muffled there. You adjust it as best you can over the nose. And I have some ideas for the, you know, if you don't have a surgical mask with that moldable piece over the nose, I have an idea for you I'm going to share in a moment. You tie the upper part first, and then you tie the lower part. You tie it in a way that you don't have to touch it again. Okay, now, nobody said this, I don't think, but I am sure that one of the factors that they had to consider at the CDC when they were determining whether to recommend masks is that once someone wears a mask, there is much more of a tendency to be repeatedly touching the face. Okay, and of course that can introduce more virus. So there's a real trade-off here, okay, with protection versus introduction of new virus that you wouldn't have had, because the mask is a source of always touching your face. Now in the operating room as well, we're always doing this. We're squeezing the nose piece, we're pulling this down, we're moving this around, we're retightening this. It's just a constant source of touching your face, and you really have to be aware of that. One idea that seems like a little bit of overkill, but I'm just going to throw it out there, is if you put on a face shield on top of it. Okay, so like those, there are disposable face shields. They look like those welders' masks, and it's sort of like a window. There's a headpiece, and it's sort of like a window that comes down and it's clear. And when you want to go touch your face, you'll bang into that. So I haven't done that. I haven't tried it. I don't even have one, but it's something I was thinking about today. So something that you would wear that's clear over your face, which also covers your eyes, by the way, is one idea. So if you had a surgical mask, if you happen to have your hands on one, that's ideal because, like I said, it has that bendable nose piece. Now, if you don't, this was one idea I came up with, these disposable ice packs. You can get these at pharmacies and things like that. I think it works a little bit nicer than a scarf or bandana, but it's not perfect. So here's how you can make a moldable area that would fit right at the top to make a nose, something that squeezes your nose. This is a twist tie, like from a plastic bag. So you can put this on here, sort of near the top, leave a little border. And this is paper tape. Okay, now you can use any kind of tape, but you have to think about the adhesive isn't going to be next to your skin. The adhesive is going to be on away from your skin, because it's going to be holding that little twist tie. But paper tape is meant for people with very sensitive skin. Usually in the operating room, we start an IV and we tape it down with a plastic medical tape, which is still, not too irritating, but people who have really sensitive skin, we use this paper tape. And what you do is you tape that. I have just taped there. You can see the end of it. I've just taped that little piece down, that little twist tie down to this mask. And now I can put it over my face and I can mold it and it'll stick some. See, keeps my nose, keeps that shape where my nose was. So this is one option. Now you can also do that on a scarf. Okay, so I have a little scarf here. I don't have any more like triangular type bandanas. I don't really wear scarves that much, but however you're going to fold it up, figure it out in advance. I just folded this so that it's kind of a long rectangle and then large enough that I could tie it in the back. And this would go something like that. It would definitely have to be wide enough to cover your face and your nose. And same thing, you can tie this little twist tie, well, you can tape it with that paper tape, which sticks pretty nicely to fabrics right where your nose is going to go, and then tie the rest. Okay, so this is about the best thing I could think of. I'd be interested if somebody has a better idea, but I think this is one of the problems with masks is that they leave too much of a gap depending on the bridge of your nose and the sort of the structure of your face. And I think this is a nice makeshift nose piece. There are a couple of things to think about, like if you wear glasses, people who are not used to wearing masks who wear glasses are constantly fogging up when you put in the mask, okay? So there is a solution for that, but here's the reason for it, because usually whatever gap there is there's gaps like right around here and right around here on the bridge of your nose. And when you exhale, the air tends to come up through there and then it goes in under the glasses, and your glasses are always fogging up, right? And then you have to touch your face, so that's no good. So what you want to do is, if you have glasses, and in particular if you're using these makeshift masks that are not really designed to be, to shape for a face, okay? You might get another piece of paper tape because this might be a little bit irritating. But again, these are things for when you're going out, and you really shouldn't be going out all that much right now. You should be staying home. And in that case, what you can do is you can tape this so that you have a little piece of the adhesive exposed, right? So only part of the tape is on the mask, and the rest of it is protruding. And then that will get taped to your nose. So now it's going to stay without leaving any gaps, okay? You could do this anyway, but some people find tape irritating to wear for a long period of time. But you can tape it, and then when you fix the bottom, you'll leave a little bit of gap somewhere on purpose, somewhere down low, so that when you exhale, it goes down to the bottom. That the air will take the path of least resistance. So instead of going up and fogging up your glasses, the air will come down and exit the mask. Now, yes, there's going to be a gap, but believe me, there are gaps anyway. You don't have an airtight mask on your face over your nose and mouth. So if I had to pick the place for the gap, it's better that it's at the bottom anyway, because this is the whole issue with large particle droplets or even small particles that float around. It's a lot easier for things to enter with a falling motion. Things don't tend to be down low and then come up. Okay, they just don't tend to do that. So down low is probably the good place to have the gap, okay, on your mask. And even if you don't wear glasses, this might be something that if you're comfortable with and you don't mind having the tape on your face all day, that might be a good thing, okay? Your eyes are still exposed, so if you wear glasses, that's actually a good thing. If you have choice between contacts and glasses, this might be the time to wear your glasses, or you could wear some safety goggles out, and especially safety goggles are kind of big, so they would tend to come down over this part of the mask, okay? They would tend to be like leaning over it. You'd want to make sure you have room at the bottom, and you probably want to tape up top so that you don't fog up your glasses or your safety goggles. But those are a good thing, because your nose and your mouth are not the only mucous membranes on your face. There's also your eyes, okay? So in my opinion, I think that for the same logic, that if we're going to wear these masks, of course, they mostly protect other people, which are exhaling, are breathing. That's the nose and the mouth. But if you want some added protection for yourself, covering the eyes is the best way to do that, in my opinion. It adds a lot to the mask, which, is only somewhat helpful already. So that's what I'm doing only if I find myself in a situation where I have to get out and I can't know that I'm going to be socially distanced. But again, there is no substitute for the social distancing, and I am practicing strict social distancing right now. I would like to warn people, please don't put on these masks and get a false sense of security. That it will allow you to do more things and to ease back on the social distancing, because it won't. Okay, that's not what it's for, and that's not how you should use it. Your skin sometimes gets a little irritated. So the other thing you might do is, if you don't find something that's favorable, that you find very comfortable, you can also, just like I said, to tape this little twist tie in, you can tape onto the whatever part's going to be against your face and your mouth some gauze. I did read a recommendation to use paper towel. I think I would use gauze instead if I could find it. And then if you are taping gauze there, that maybe acts as a little bit of a filter. There's no data on this, but what you would do is, at the end of the period of time that you're wearing it, is you would throw that part out, okay? And then if you're wearing a scarf, you would launder it, okay? And then you would put on a new piece of gauze the next time, okay? Same thing with this. I probably wouldn't want to just go through these. I have a few of these. Probably pretty easy to find still, the disposable ice pack. I would take that plastic piece out. I don't think I'd want to be breathing through the plastic, which is meant to hold the ice. But I might tape a piece of gauze on there, and then I could probably feel more comfortable reusing this a couple of times. You really can't reuse a disposable item too many times, because the moisture from when you exhale will, break down the papers and things in here that are biodegradable. The scarf, of course, you can launder. So paper tape, disposable ice packs, or if not, a scarf are nice substitutes in my opinion. I'd really like your suggestions if somebody has some other ones that are helpful. Again, I would like to remind you that if you are going to use a mask because you just have to be in a situation where you can't be sure of your social distancing, please don't touch your face and then touch other things. I am going to do another video on gloves, properly wearing gloves, taking them on, taking them off, because I also see a lot of people wearing gloves around in a way that's misusing them and probably putting themselves, if not other people, but mostly yourself, at risk the way they're being used. So I'll talk about that next time, but until then, I'd like your suggestions. Thank you for checking in. Hey, I noticed that got a couple new subscribers since the last time I was on, and I want to thank you so much. I'm just so happy that people are interested in the subject matter. I'd love suggestions about more subject matter. And until next time, I'll talk to you. Bye.